Welcome everybody. Exciting week this week. Having the opportunity to play at home again, 2 weeks in a row, which is exciting to give our players a little chance to get their legs underneath them. I felt like it was great to get a win this week. It was a blue collar win, as I said after the game. And I mean, it was a bring your lunch pail. There wasn't anything flashy about it. It was just guys doing their job and being able to execute as a football team in a close game. It was probably one of the first, I take it back, second. It was the second game that we have won in that manner since I've been here. I look back at UTSA. It was a close game last year. There was a grinded out, kind of lower scoring field position game. And I felt like we have grown as a football team, believe it or not, just being able to win a game like that. So many of our games last year were lopsided, a lot of turnovers, big plays, and a game like that yesterday or Saturday was just hard-nosed, tough football, stop the run, don't give up the big play. It was kind of like the old Big Ten games, that were just played with field position. And I thought our team did a really nice job of executing and doing the things they had to win. So it was a great win for us. I felt like we had to overcome an awful lot. I think last week was a trap game for us, coming off a triple overtime emotional loss at Kansas State. Having 2 road games on the road, both of them being night games where you're getting back at 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning and losing a night of sleep, being in the 3rd week of school while the tests are starting, papers are due. There's a lot of distractions and things like that, and I was really proud the way the players were able to maintain their focus and find a way to win that football game with it being such a trap game. It was a game that probably was not played at our emotional peak. But you can't play 12 emotionally peaked games as you go through the season, and you just got to make sure when you have games like that where there's a lot of distractions and a lot of things going on, you got to find a way to get a win. And I felt like our football team did that. Defensively, to give up, 22 rushes, 54 yards, a 2.4 yard average against the rush. I thought the front 7 played an excellent football game. Both feet was very, very active. You have the way Vernon Butler and Vontarius Dora, Canty, Yadarga got in there. Jalen Ferguson played very well in that football game, got an opportunity to play a lot of guys, and I thought they really did a nice job. And to be that successful against the run and have 0 big play touchdowns is a testament to our secondary. It's a testament to the front 7 and the secondary, because I thought we really played well as a defense. I think we got our stinger back a little bit. Came back in the second half and gave up a drive, but most of it was throwing the ball underneath, ball control type stuff, which we were willing, to give up when we were carrying the lead that we were. Just as we said at halftime, don't give up the big play, don't give up the quick strike, don't turn the ball over, some of those things that you have to do. And that was the mindset we took as a coaching staff, and I thought the players executed it, came up, rallied the ball, and got them on the ground. They did a nice job, but it was the best game. Bryson Abraham and Darius Barnes played their best game with them struggling running the ball. They tried a lot of double moves on the outside, tried to put a lot of pressure on the corners, and I thought those 2 really responded and played a great game. Both the Darius Barnes and Bryson Abraham had 2 of the best games that they've played so far this year. They were on top of it. They were dialed in. They were focused. Really proud of what they did, and that gave us the opportunity to have some success. And I look at, we've got to do a little bit better job of containing the quarterback. We let him out of a pocket a couple times with some zone blitzes. We got to do a little bit better job of that. And we had a couple opportunities. As we said after the game, people aren't going to throw the ball around like they did a year ago. A year ago, they were willing to throw the ball up with the pressures that we dialed up. We had a lot of almost like fair catch passes that were thrown up in the air for our secondary, and we're going to have to go earn them this year. And we had a couple opportunities, got our hands on them, just weren't able to come down with it, but we just got to keep working on those things every day in practice and keep harping on it. Offensively, reviewing the game, it was a 0 turnover game, which is the first time we've done that this year. We had 2 turnovers in the opening game. I believe we had 2 turnovers. We had 2 interceptions in the opening game. We had 2 turnovers the following week at Western Kentucky. We had a fumble last week at Kansas. We had 2 fumbles at Kansas State, and to come out and have a 0 turnover game was a big improvement for us, and that's a real testament to everybody that carried the ball, as well as Jeff, who had the ball in his arm. We had 472 yards on the day, and really what was a boring day, and had 29 first downs, which kind of, I think, was wasn't so much a stat game, but I thought we were very productive offensively with what we had to do up front. We had 246 yards rushing, and we finished the game off with 4 minutes to go. We have not done that. I mean, we're normally, when we'd get the onside kick, we'd run it 3 times and have to punt it away and rely on our defense. So it was nice to see the offense get that onside kick with, I think it was about 3:30, 3:40 to go in the game, and they had 3 timeouts, and they were able to make a number of first downs to help solidify the game. I thought the offensive line did a really good job in the running game. We really challenged them last week and told them how important that was going to be to our success, was them coming off the ball and creating holes up front, because what they did, the 2 really good defensive ends they had, what they did to put pressure on your quarterback, we did not feel like we could stand in the pocket and throw the ball 50 times a game. And so it felt like if we were going to win, we needed to establish a running game, and felt like the offensive line and Kenneth Dixon did that. I thought Kenneth Dixon is special with the ball under his arm, whether he's catching it, whether he's running with it. But he's a guy that obviously is really special, and it was great to see him achieve a milestone with the 3 touchdowns and being the 11th of his career, which ties the FBS record for the most touchdowns, most 3 touchdown games in his career with 11. And so it was nice to see him receive some of those accolades, but Ken is such a humble young man. I mean, I think he's just excited to go out and play again. He'll be the guy going the hardest again at practice on Tuesday. Kicking game was much better. Kicking game didn't get us beat. It's the first game so far this year that the kicking game didn't beat us. And I know that's probably a sad statement in itself, but in our last couple games, we've given up a kick return, given up a punt return, and we've made some mistakes. I think some of those young guys, Jared Kraft, I think Dancy, I think Michael Mims, there's Russell Ferris, Lloyd Grogan, a lot of those guys playing on our Dirty Dozen really did a nice job. And I think our cover teams are getting much better with the leverage, and we're starting to understand it a little bit more. But I keep saying this, we're a work in progress, and we're getting better, and I think we are making some strides. What we've got to do now is going from just make sure we don't get us beat to really putting the special in special teams. I think we've got some dynamic players in Carlos Henderson, Trent Taylor, and some people that can make some plays when we give them some space. I think we just got to do a better job to where special teams have an opportunity to win a football game for us somewhere along the lines. And I'm feeling more and more comfortable with the job the staff is doing and the job the players are doing coming along with special teams. So it was great to win. Even though it was blue collar and it wasn't overly flashy or exciting, it was a great win for us as a program with so many of the things we had going against us last week against a very good FIU team who was ranked number one in the conference in defense and has got a number of all-conference players on the defensive side of the ball. They do a great job. This week we've got Lafayette. Lafayette comes to town this week. This is always a game that everybody looks forward to from a fan base standpoint, from a coach's standpoint, from a player's standpoint. A lot of our players played with players that are down there, whether it was in high school in all-star games, played with them, played against them on same teams, and it kind of builds an immediate rivalry. Geographically, just being 3 hours down the road, I know for our alumni and our fan base, everybody wants bragging rights for this game in the state. And so it creates a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, and I know it's something that our players are really looking forward to. I think Coach Hudspeth's done a great job with that program. When you look at the success that they've had, the wins that they've had, the conference wins they've had in the Sun Belt, I think he's done a really nice job building that program. When you look at them offensively, what they're doing right now, they're running the football. They're running the football really well. They've got 3 returning starters up front on their offensive line. They're big. They're very physical. They're a zone team. They kind of maul you, and then they've got a couple running backs that are really good. I really like Elijah McGuire. I liked him as a freshman, and you knew as he was continuing to mature and grow, the day was going to come when he was going to start getting 25 touches a game, and I think he's pretty electric with the ball under his arm. He's an all-conference player of the year last year. He's a player of the year preseason this year. Very deserving of his billing. I think he's a really good player, and when he gets the ball under his arms, he's exciting. I think they're 19th right now in the country in rushing yards per game, and I think they're 8th in the country in average yards per rush. which I think is a real testament to their offensive line, the stability that they have up there, and the quality running backs that they have in their backfield. I think their wide receivers, they're big, they're athletic, they can make some things happen. They have speed there on the perimeter, and I think offensively they do a really nice job, and they pose some problems for you with what they have. When you look at them on the defensive side of the ball, they are what you would definitely consider a pressure-oriented team. They have 5 returning starters, but they have 5 more that started in at least 2 games a year ago. So we're looking at it like they have 10 guys that have started on the defensive side of the ball for them. A lot of experience coming back. They have a linebacker who transferred from Arkansas who sat out last year, who's a very good football player. Throw him into that mix and you throw an awful lot of experience. They have recruited speed and athleticism in the secondary, and they are taking advantage of that, and they are playing a very high pressure oriented defensive scheme with what they're doing. They are very talented in the back end with a lot of speed, and they are big and physical. They play a 3 down and give you a lot of looks. Very similar to kind of what a Western Kentucky does, but they're playing a lot more man coverage and a lot more pressure oriented than Western Kentucky is. I think their special teams are really good. They have a punter averaging 45 yards a punt, and they put their best returners back there in the punt game, in the return game, in the kickoff return game, and you'll see Elijah McGuire back there getting the ball in his hands in space. So present some problems, very talented team, rivalry game, really looking forward to this week and having the opportunity to get out on the practice field and start to put some of these things together. I think the attitude of the team is excellent. I know a lot of people asked about how will they respond to to 2 losses in a row. We talked about we still have a lot of football left to play. We're at the 1/3 mark right now of the season. We got 2/3 left to go, and I think the attitude of this team is kind of blue collar, hard work. They're going up there, they're working hard during the week. We got to get some things straight and cleaned up, but they realize a lot of the improvements that not only we need to make, but that we can make. And I say each and every week that we've got to be more concerned about us than our opponent and making sure that we're a solid, fundamentally sound football team, and that's what we're going to try and improve on this week. What questions could I answer for anybody?
You used the word blue collar. I don't know if it was this game and you referred to the game last year, but why do you think this team is kind of accepting that blue collar role as opposed to last year? But like you said, we talked about Saturday where you won a lot with a lot of turnovers and a lot of big plays.
I think a lot of it is kind of what we're forced to do because of how people play us. I think last year nobody knew about Cody Sokol in the passing game. Carlos Henderson was a young player in the program. People didn't know a lot about what we had as an offensive football team. Paul Turner had never played for us. And all of a sudden you come out and people are loading the box and trying to stop 28 Kenneth Dixon. And that opened some things for a lot of big plays and getting the ball down the field where we were able to score a lot of points. And then defensively with the defense that Manny brought in, which was high pressure oriented defense, people didn't really know what we were doing a year ago, and they've had a year of film to watch some of those players. And I think offensively they are trying not to take sacks and get rid of the ball in a hurry and throw the ball underneath and not really challenging us down the field that much. And then on defense they're playing like I said, Western Kentucky played 3 and 4 deep the whole game and dropped 8. Said we're not going to give up the big play. So I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with what we're given and how people are attacking us. I've said this before. You take a deep breath when you call plays on either side of the ball, and you're kind of, okay, here we go, first play. All right, what are they doing? They're in 4-3, they're in 2 down, they got this guy, and then it's like an auction for the next 3 hours. I mean, you're just on those headsets talking about what they're doing, how they're doing it, how you're going to attack them, what adjustments you're going to make, and people just haven't been giving us a lot of deep balls or haven't really been throwing the ball down the field. And so we're forced to win in a blue-collar manner of making sure we don't give up the big play and trying to ground out first downs and keep the ball and move the ball down the field. 2 ways to score, either with a big play or take the ball and drive it 12 plays and go the length of the field. And I was proud to see this football team do that the other day.
How good is this defense going to be whenever Nick Thomason and Bo Feet play like they did the last 2 games on the same day?
Yeah, I think those 2 guys, they're both young starters in this program. Even though they're both seniors, they're both young starters, and I think they get better each and every week. And I think both of them, when you add Dora, Butler, Aaron Brown back in the mix, the way Canty's playing, and I talked a little bit about the Jalen Fergusons and Tyler Porter starting to establish some depth up there. I think it makes things a lot easier for your linebackers when you have a defensive line like that. And I think Nick and Bo are feeling really comfortable in what they're doing right now at the linebacker position, and I think it's showing because they're starting to play with a lot of confidence and they're playing with an edge, which is what I like to see. I mean, they're playing, we keep using that word, our defense has got its stinger back. You know, they're not playing on their heels, but they're playing on their toes, and feel really comfortable with their reads and their focus and what they're doing right now. But I think both of them have the ability to be really good players.
FIU was able to utilize a tight end pretty well, and C.J. Cleveland might have struggled a little bit more than Lloyd Grogan did in defending the pass. Has Lloyd deserved some more playing time with his play?
Yeah, Lloyd was such a key for us. He's on every special team. And so he's playing 20 plays on special team, 20 plays on defense. Right now, I think Lloyd is a real contributor to this team as we have players in our Victors Club. He was in the Victors Club on special teams. He did a nice job on defense too. I think playing 17 snaps on the defense from a defensive standpoint. But I think it's a thing where we need them both. They're both going to play, but Lloyd is very valuable right now to our special teams and what we're doing on special teams. So you'll see him play a little bit more, but I still like the contribution that he's making to this team because it may not be as much on defense, but it was a huge significance for us in special teams. He made a huge significance.
What do you attribute the run defense success through 4 games so far? And is that the biggest matchup that ULL's rushing offense against your rush defense?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at statistically, it certainly is. Coming off a game like we just did, I'm sure is really going to motivate them as a football team, and they're telling their team right now, 54 yards rushing, and this is it's going to be a challenge, and they're going to play with an edge, and they're going to try and run it, and we're going to try and stop it. I mean, that's what they do, and that's what we do. So that's the matchup that's going to be interesting to watch, and I think they're a really good football team, and that's what they do is they run the ball, and we're going to have to challenge our players up front that this will be the best rushing attack we've played so far this year as a defensive football team. So it will be a challenge.
And as for why there's been success from y'all's defense stopping the run so far?
I think even when you looked at us last year, we were really good against the run. I think when you look at some of what we're doing with the defensive line, the way those guys are improving and coming along, the addition of Nick and Bo and the way they're all fitting into it. When you play a zone team like we did last week, it's about gap integrity football. Early in the season when we played Western Kentucky, they were a zone-oriented football team, and we'd get a guy get out of his gap and somebody would split us. And I think they're getting better and better at understanding how to fit gaps and how important it is for me to do my job and for me to trust Vern and Dora and Nick and everybody to be in their gaps so they can hold it. And that's why I think good run defensive football team is just that. It's team. I mean, it takes everybody doing their job because one guy gets out of their gap and that thing splits into the secondary and everybody says, well, your run defense isn't very good. It takes a physical mindset, it takes a toughness mindset, and it takes everybody playing gap integrity football, assignment football.
Because it was mediocre in my mind compared to Southern. What would your pitch be to the fans to come out for this game? Obviously, one of the bigger home games aside from Southern, another in-state rivalry, if you will.
We want to sell the stadium out. I mean, we want to sell this stadium out, and I think having a rivalry game coming to town 3 hours away, I would encourage everybody to come out. I mean, we're sitting here trying to build this program, and I said it before, that this program is going to get to where we want it to be, not because Skip Holtz is here or Kenneth Dixon's here or anything else. This program will get to where we want it to be when enough people care about what happens to the future of Tech football. When enough players care, administrators care, fan base cares, everybody's got to get in because not any one person can do it alone. And I think there have been some huge strides and huge steps having this building built. I think makes a huge commitment to where everybody wants Louisiana Tech football to go, or football or athletics to go. And the same thing when I look at the crowd at Southern and being the second largest crowd in school history. I think that we have an opportunity here to really start to build something special. We got to build it on the field. We got to build it with a fan base. We got to build it with facilities. The university's growing. The town's growing. There's just a lot of excitement and energy. And I would encourage anybody to come out to support this program and to support this football team.
Speaking of buildings, Smith had an interesting comment saying their new facility, there's concerns about focus and their loss against Akron. There's a new facility here. How are you able to, as a coach, keep everyone focused? Because it seemed like that wasn't really much of an issue Southern with some of the exterior distractions.
No, I mean, it was, when we moved to the team in here for Southern, we moved the team in for Southern and moving the locker room and try and get them in here, and we tried to make it as easy as we could. I think Adam McGirt has been unbelievable to work with to make that a smooth transition. And as coaches, when you go in my office, it's all boxes. I mean, I hadn't even had time to unpack yet. You move in. We moved in on the Friday after Western Kentucky, and you're getting ready for Kansas State, and you got everything in boxes. I keep telling Krista, it's like, hey, I need you to dig through these and find that file. I don't know where anything is, but right now it's what we have to deal with. I mean, it's what we have to deal with as coaches. You haven't had an opportunity to move everything in, and it is a little bit chaotic, but it's what you have to deal with. But I think for the players, Adam McGirt did an unbelievable job of making the transition smooth, and for them it was just moving from one locker room to another. They shower in a different place, they dress in a different place, and I think this administration did a really good job making sure that transition was smooth. And as coaches, once we moved, we just, like I said, we've been living out of boxes right now, and I've got a video projector, I've got a computer, we got a staff meeting to meet in, so we've got everything we need right now to get done what we got to get done.
A couple weeks ago I asked you about the quarterback matchup, Western Kentucky quarterback with Jeff, this week running backs with Kenneth and Dwyer, probably with Fournette on LSU, probably the top 3 running backs in the state, maybe in the region. As a fan, again, would you be kind of interested just to see this matchup of 2 of the top running backs?
Yeah, I think it'll definitely be something that will be promoted and something that'll be exciting to watch, to have the opportunity to come out and watch. And I would even say you're watching 2 of the better running backs in the country when you look at them statistically. All 3 of them, when you put Fournette in there. I mean, you're looking at 3 of the better running backs in the country with what they're doing productivity-wise. And I think it's got all the billings for a great day, for a great matchup. And I think it'll be a fun part to watch, the matchup between 2 running backs. Although they won't be on the field at the same time, they won't get a chance to see a lot of each other because they'll be on the sideline kind of doing adjustments and everything else when the other guy's on the field. But I think from a fan standpoint, it'll be an exciting thing to watch, to have the opportunity to have 2 running backs of that caliber in that stadium together.
You called Kenneth special earlier. You coach a lot of good running backs. Would you compare to any of the tailbacks that you've coached in the past?
I think he's got a unique skill set in that he's got some speed, some ability to make some people miss. He's got great hands out of the backfield, but he also has some power. But I think Kenneth's biggest attribute is his attitude. I think Kenneth may be one of the best competitors that I've ever been around. He's one of those guys that you put him on your hands team to say, you know what, he'll find a way to come up with the ball. You put him on your kickoff to hands, your onside kick team. He's one of those guys that will go compete for the ball. I think he's just got an unbelievable competitive spirit, and he practices just as hard up there on the practice field every single day as he does out there, and I think that's what the great ones do. The great ones have one speed, and I would definitely put him in that category with a lot of the running backs that I've had an opportunity to coach. And when you start talking about, Chris Johnson, Sammy Smith, Ricky Waters, Jerome Bettis, Rodney Culver, Rocket Ishmael, I've been around some really special running backs, but the special ones have the talent, but they have the attitude, the desire, and the work habits that go along with it, and that's one of the things that I think makes Kenneth Dixon so special.
You praised the corners in their play Saturday. What have they done to really up their game from WKU to today?
Well, I think, and I heard Kentrell Bryce stand up here and say that, we're really focused on getting better. And I think that this secondary got an awful lot of accolades in the offseason as they were billed as the #2 secondary in the country. And I believe a little bit of it was they started believing their press clippings. I think we probably read way too many of them in the offseason and started believing what everybody was writing rather than going out and getting it done on the field. I think the Western Kentucky game was an eye-opening experience for our secondary, and I think they're a very competitive, determined bunch, and I think they came back and said, you know what, we got to go back to doing what we do. We got to study film, play with an edge. You got to go out there. You got to be a little bit, you got to be a little bit afraid of failure. You know what I mean? When you go out there, you can't go in with an overconfident mindset. And there's a fine line between that, because you have to be really confident to play with a stinger, but you've got to be really focused and dialed in what you do. And I think just their approach and their mindset, I think Western Kentucky was a great attention getter for a lot of guys in that secondary, and they've worked extremely hard, and I think their play is now showing the determination and what got them to where they were for all the preseason accolades. Carlos, from what they're telling me, should be fine. We went out there yesterday. He was a little bit limited. We do not practice today, but I was told this morning when we go to practice Tuesday, he should be able to go, that he should be fine. Kirby Wixon is still out right now with really an unknown on his return. At this point, we have to start looking at some point when he's able to come back. He does have a redshirt year available to him. And when he's able to go, we just have to look at how much football's left, where are we in the season for him to play this year, or if it's something that could even be a red shirt. But at this point, that decision hasn't been made.